morning, good evening, good day, good wherever you are. Welcome to It's All About the Grey podcast. I'm privileged and honoured to get probably what previously was the hardest man to catch, but nowadays maybe not so much. I'm joined this morning with Davide Bosio. Davide, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
So Davide has an impressive rap sheet that I'm going to quickly roll off because I think it's important to provide some context to the man that Davide is. So he's been in the corporate finance game for the last 23 years, built and ran his own corporate finance firm, recently rolled into what many may know as Shaw and Partners and picked up the role as the WA State Manager, and has probably been on the front of every newspaper and business article that there possibly is ever available in the last 12 months, and amassed a team of over 40 or 50 advisors, I believe, and recently transitioned out of the role into a board space. Currently sits on the board of Black Cat, and this week has recently closed an $80 million raise. So, Davide, I didn't even need to give you a good rap. You've done it yourself.
It's just been one of those overnight success stories. It took about 25 years to get there, but I got there in the end.
Well, it's probably fair to say you persevered and you pushed through, and obviously in today's podcast we're probably going to delve into some of those stories. But without taking the shine off that, run us through your story and how you've come to be.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the very generous intro. But as I said, it does feel like it's been a long journey, and it's been a lot of hard work, and I think for me that the hardest part was really getting started. And I think that's probably where most people struggle. It's you go through a period, whether it be your education, etc., where you're trying to figure out which way to go. But for me, it became very easy. One day I woke up and I did a marketing degree at university, and because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I just fell into marketing. And as it turns out, sales and marketing is kind of important. I think a lot of businesses they don't realise how important it is. But for me, when I figured out I had this passion for the stock market, I kind of woke up one day and said, I want to be a stockbroker. But kind of hard if you haven't been brought up in those circles, which I hadn't, and I had to try and break my way into it. So that was a real challenge. But once I kind of figured out this is what I want to do, I just became quite focused on achieving that as the goal, and went really hard at it. And I was very, very lucky to get a tiny window, and at the time it was 2001, and for those who would remember, there had been the great tech boom, which kind of ended around that time spectacularly, and the markets had been absolutely, decimated, and I had been reaching out to all these stockbroking businesses trying to get my foot in the door, and everyone was just telling me the same thing, which is we're not hiring. In fact, all the new people at the moment, we're pushing them out. We don't need,
Wow.
all the young people. If they're not, paying their way with commissions, etc., they're gone. And so there was a lot of people getting sacked and kicked out of the industry, if anything. But I had a little window to join a futures broking firm, which was very different to me. So I quickly looked up, wasn't using Google back then. So I had to look and figure out what are futures and figure that out pretty quick. And I kept getting knocked back by the MD. So I called him because I knew that they were on the quiet. They were looking for advisors to join. So I called, and he said, "Nah, not interested." And I was like, "But hang on, I thought you were hiring." "Nah, you'll never pass the exams." And hang up. And, I got that 3 or 4 times, and eventually I kept ringing him. It's probably a persistent little bugger. And eventually he just said, "You'll never pass the exam, but you've been persistent, and so that's pretty good in itself. If you can pass the exam, let me know, and you have a job, and if you can cut it, you'll be able to make some money." Yeah, and that was kind of it. So I kind of hung up, and I was like, I think I just got a job. So I had to run off and do the exams, which were difficult, and there was a Sydney Futures at the time, so Sydney Futures Exchange. They had their own set of exams, and that got me started in the world of futures broking. And from there, I worked with a company. It was only a small company, and we were able to add equities because they were only a futures broking firm at the time, which is quite niche. So we were able to add equities, and then at a very young age, I was able to sort of, start building a bit of a team of stockbrokers from really from nothing, and that sort of grew and continued. And more recently, which you touched on my role at Shaw and Partners, that was a terrific experience for me. Had been, but it came about. I joined a local firm, DJ Carmichael, in 2014, and I saw an opportunity there. It was a very well-known brand in Western Australia. So Carmichael's been around for like 125 years. It was a Kalgoorlie-based firm that started back in the gold rush days in the late 1800s, where stockbroking firms popped up on Hannon Street, and there'd be lines of investors queuing up to put money into IPOs because they knew that these new gold floats going a bit similar to, at times what we experience today. So not a lot of changes, right? But that firm there had been around forever, and anyone in the capital markets in Western Australia particularly had either worked at Carmichael's at some point in their career or knew of it. And so there was an opportunity there to go in, and I was part of a team that helped to restructure the business. We recapitalised, put some money in, and I became managing director of that business and ran that for 5 years. And it was hard. It was a lot harder than I probably thought it would have been at the time. Like all these things, sometimes if you kind of knew it all, you wouldn't probably do it. But it was a great opportunity to work with what I think had fantastic bones. So it was a business that had some great things going for it and had some really good people working in that business. And we were able to return it to a position of profitability. But then for me, again, trying to think, well, where do we take this next? It was the struggle that I did have was in financial services in particular. I do believe that you need scale to succeed. And we had a team of brokers, we had research, we had a corporate division to that business. And my belief is that to do those things well, you need more infrastructure around you. You need better offices, better research, better people, better ability to acquire people, because it's a relationship business, and so you need to be able to recruit. You need a strong balance sheet to do that, and all these things. So my discussion with the board, once we kind of got through, really trying to rebuild and restructure the business, was what do we want to be? Like, how do we actually not just become, I guess, one of the participants in this industry? How do we become the place of choice, and how do we get better at what we do? And for us, it came down to two things. One is we probably needed to put a lot more money into the business to bring it up to speed, which was a big job. Or alternatively, do we look for a partner who would potentially acquire the business? And we thought, well, let's play with it. The business was going fine at the time. We had some money in the bank. We had a good strategy, had a good team. So we didn't race off and have to do anything in distress, which was a great position to be in. And it took about a year of getting to know the team at Shaw and Partners. So I had a number of meetings with Earl Evans, who's the CEO at Shaw's, and we got to know each other first. It was just a slow process. They were, their head office is in Sydney, but had a national business that was growing massively on the East Coast. And in Western Australia, they only had a small team working out of a serviced office in Perth. So they just had this exceptional trajectory on the East Coast. And so what we represented for Shaw's at the time was an ability to get a good team of, call it 15, 20 advisors, and to turn that into, I guess, the Shaw's business in Perth. And we were really, really proud of being able to put a deal together that I think made sense for the shareholders at DJ Carmichael. It was a good deal. It was an elegant way to, I guess, say goodbye to the past. And it gave us this amazing platform to grow the business in Western Australia, and it gave us scale. It gave us all those things that we needed: a strong balance sheet, good brand, marketing, just the infrastructure with people, compliance, research, all those things that you need. That they're expensive things to build within a business, especially in financial services. So if you grow without those parts of the business, you end up tripping over yourself and getting yourself into trouble. So we just had this fantastic platform just to grow. And so our advisors that came for the journey Many of them have had incredible success going forward in building their businesses. And what I'm most proud of was we were really able to recruit, and we added another, call it 25 advisors over a 5-year period, which is really hard to do because these are advisors who have very strong businesses, established businesses, just terrific additions to the Perth team. And that for me was a really fantastic journey. And to close off on that, I recently decided to resign from that role, which a lot of people scratched their head and said to me, "What the hell are you doing? You've got this like this great position in such a great business." To which I said, "Yeah, but at some point, you have to sort of follow your heart." And I feel like I'd achieved a lot within that business, and it's perfectly poised to continue growing, and
Right.
I've got no doubt it will do. And with good people running that business, it'll continue on. I still have a lot of friends there, and left on very good terms. Fortunately, it made the decision very easy for me, and now I can focus on a few board roles, which is what I'm doing, and trying to get a bit more
balance back to life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously, David, there's power in leaving an organisation, because at some point there is always a time to leave, whether you outgrow the organisation or the organisation outgrows yourself. But there's a lot of power in leaving it when there's, I guess, as we would call it, meat on the bone. So you've picked it up, you've built it up, you're now poised to take it to the next level, and you go, you know what, let's bring someone else in and let them run. And that's probably very wise succession planning, not only for yourself, but for that business model as well. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Like we were, you do know in these large businesses, and Shaw's is a national business. It's a fantastic business with a number of advisors across all the states now, and great managers running every business, which goes back to our I still say our back to their head of wealth and CEO. So it's a very efficient way of really managing what is a large national business. But we always joke and say, everyone's expendable, right? And it took about 24 hours for me to be replaced in that role, and I already had my idea of who that person would be, and fortunately that person stepped up immediately and said, "Yep, I'm keen to do it." But that was like within 24 hours. It's like, "Yep, see ya,
see ya. Thank you very much.
It's been great. See you later. You can
pick up your box,
get your stuff and go."
Ciao.
Which is it's a sign of a terrific business, right? Because
of course.
It just means that there's continuity, and that there's and the key there is just making sure, especially in that sort of business, management is management, and I think they serve obviously an important role and an important function. But in wealth management and financial services, there's such strong relationships with the advisors and their clients, and that's really key. So making sure that there's continuity there, and that the advisors are happy, and that their world continues relatively unchanged, that is really important, because ultimately that's the backbone of the business. Those individuals and their relationships, their clients, that's the actual business.
Yeah, so let's delve into that, because I think that's a really fantastic point. So when you're building and growing a business, it's important that you find the management team, right? Obviously there's an aspect of management, which is managing people, and then there's probably a larger and more important aspect, which is managing the clients that bring in the revenue. So when you went through this process of, I guess, aggressively recruiting, if we call it that, how were you able to find that balance or that person, or was it more an organisation or a team that you would then look to bring in? I guess, what was the process?
Yeah, I think it's we were opportunistic, and that recruiting, I believe, is we'd call it it's just hand-to-hand combat. You have to do a lot of meetings, you have to talk to a lot of people, and many of them you'll sit down and you'll talk to, and you'll know immediately that they're not going to fit culturally what we're looking for, and others you'll sit down and go, you would be perfect. And that could be an individual. So if it were an individual, we'd be just as enthusiastic as if it were a team, if it's the right sort of person. And I think that just comes down to knowing what the firm, Shaw's, at the time could offer. And if that individual, that recruit, their values and what they're looking for is consistent with what Shaw's could offer, then that's a great fit. And then it's a matter of trying to figure out what do we need to do. But what I think is really critical, it's the firm is there really to really help drive what the advisor can do. So, again, it's very, very simple. If you can attract good people and they are good, genuine people working hard for their clients, well, that's already a big tick for your business. So culturally, if that's what you're focused on building and you're successful in attracting those sorts of people to your firm, well, that's ultimately what your firm is going to look like in the future.
So what is a key attraction? Particularly, obviously, professional services, in my opinion, is different. But any business, I guess, is also different and difficult. So in professional services, or in your experience, what did you find were key attractions to attract these people?
I think it was the firm's culture. There was a lot of time and effort, and money for that matter, spent on developing the firm's culture. And what I found, and that's people probably throw those sorts of terms around very, very easily, but what I found with culture, so things like having a foundation where you actually genuinely give, we as a firm, Shaw's would, the staff of Shaw's would contribute to the Shaw Foundation and use that foundation to give to various charities within every state, within everyone's community. Again, you look at that and you can say that very easily, just rolls off the tongue, but the majority of our peers wouldn't do that.
Right.
Marketing, again, I mentioned early on, every business is sales and marketing. Now, lots of professionals and professional services providers and advisors, they don't actually realise that they're salespeople, and they think, we can do really well because we're just really good at our job. And that's great. It's good to be technical, and you need to be technical, but you also need to grow your business. And if you're not able to sell yourself or sell the firm and continue to grow your business, well, if you're not growing, you're going backwards, right? So helping people to do that. So we don't expect every person or every advisor to be a great salesperson, but as a firm, you could help them do that. So we could help them with marketing strategies. We could have a marketing spend. So again, with a strong balance sheet, you can actually spend money on acquiring customers or helping you, training or whatever it may be, to help you become better at getting more clients. Shaw's would do a lot of work around client events, fantastic client events, and we did some things which, from fireworks through to ocean paddling through to supercars. Like, honestly, it's like these are once in a lifetime experiences where you just, we would rinse and I wouldn't say rinse and repeat, certainly not, but we would have a consistent strategy of doing different things when it came to marketing. And a lot of the advisors say, you don't need to do that, it's not important. And we said, it's fine, you guys, you just do what you do well, we'll help with that. All you need to do is come along, and if I had $1 for every time someone said, oh my God, that was so good, my clients were just blown away, honestly, it just, all of it helps, and clients love to see firms that have pride and take pride in different things within the community. And some people love the arts, some people love sports, so everyone's a little bit different, but you try and touch a few of those different sort of, those touch points, I guess, and clients start to appreciate how much you do, how much of a role you play. And again, bring that back to our peers, we could say, well, we do all these things. This is what we do. So with the revenue that we keep as a firm, this is what we do to help you grow your business. And I think that was something where almost all of our peers, we we blitz them.
So you're demonstrating that to your clients that yes, our fees are X, however, this is what we're going to provide, not only in returns, but all these other benefits which they valued.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Because the service part almost becomes they take for granted. It's probably similar with your business where you provide accounting and associated services to your clients. If they decide to come to you, they're just going to assume that you're good at what you do and that you're going to do that well, because that's why they've made the decision to come to you. And it would be the same for us. So if a client came to us to say, right, we need financial advice, they've made a decision that they think you're good at that, and they're going to expect you to do a good job of that. So the rest they see all as, it's fantastic. Like, look at the things that you're doing, and it doesn't always need to be sport related, but we do lots of things with, like with chief investment officers or different investment officers from other firms, where you would bring them into the boardroom. It could be something very small and quite quite boutiquey, where you might have 20 clients talking to a mining company about a certain thing, or it could be talking to the CIO about interest rates. Where do we think interest rates are going to go? And if we think, or if you think as the expert on this subject matter, that they're going to go up or down or whatever, how do we position our investments for that? So things like that.
Topical.
We do that consistently.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you say it, because I couldn't agree with you more. I think what we call value add. So I'm not necessarily sending a bill or invoicing or expecting something in return. It's actually probably the contrary, which is a client's coming to us. Accounting and tax is what we're good at, and our job is now to provide hidden value or added value that others can't compete with. And that might be quite simply an introduction to yourself. That might be simply an introduction to a broker, reviewing their finances, both in their home loans and within their business. And it's just those small 1%ers that all add up. And therefore you become, I guess, irreplaceable in an aspect, because you've now got a group, a cohort that is looking after this one client, and you've completely elevated in your role, because you're now, I guess, the point man in effect, where you're going, okay, you want something done, let's see Sear or see Pass or see the team or see Davide, because they're going to help me and they're going to look after me. And then that's how you build trust with your clients, and that's where you build the relationship, and then it just continually evolves and evolves.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of satisfaction you can get out of that, because it takes a long time to develop that with in your personal brand, and where clients have that trust in you, and that's just a great place to get to. And I think that's as good as it gets, in my opinion.
Oh, mate, it's absolutely exceptional that you've gone on this journey. You've had these great successes, and arguably, particularly here in Perth, you've built not only a strong brand for Shaw and Partners, what was already a strong brand in the East Coast, but I think as a personal brand yourself. So, David, let's delve in. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's talk about the grey. So, it obviously isn't all about shaking hands with Basil and sitting on the West every day. Run us through, I guess, probably one of the biggest struggles of building an organisation of that size, or when you broke out from your existing firm into Shaw and Partners, and I guess the things that we probably wouldn't see. So let's talk about probably maybe some leadership challenges, or even potentially probably the diary and what actually happens behind the scenes.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned Basil, because that was a great highlight actually. we had a ribbon cutting ceremony, and and this probably tells you a little bit about the things that I had to get up to at times, because I fancy myself as a bit more of a corporate advisor, and that's currently what I'm probably doing a bit more of. But I'd find myself ringing my wife like half an hour before, going, any idea how we buy red ribbon? Like, I need to cut ribbon. I need scissors, and I need a red ribbon. And honestly, she's had plenty of those phone calls before, where we've last minute rushing around to find things. But that was a great highlight for me personally, because as a team we had 50 staff in the Perth office, and we built a beautiful office, a very very cutting edge in every way, just absolutely magnificent office for our team, which gave us a lovely home, but also room to grow further, and that was completed, I think, in March, April this year, and so it was great to celebrate that with the team, and to have the Lord Mayor come and cut the ribbon with us as well, and to officially open it. But lots of those milestones, they're the things that I love, because there's so much work that goes into that little moment in time. And but going back to your question. There's been a lot of challenges for me, and I'd say, trying to dig into the hard times, and I consider myself quite an optimistic person. I've grown up in stockbroking, and I think if you're not optimistic, you don't last that long.
That's true.
But I probably consider myself to be a reluctant leader in some aspects, and almost. The roles, I've always ended up saying, okay, just sit in the background, but you end up, maybe I can't sit there too long. I get itchy feet and try and push things along. But in terms of growing people, I think that would be the hardest thing. And if anything, I've had all of my fond memories have come from working with people, but also all the challenges come with working with people, because when if you're a one-man operation, it's very easy. You can slap yourself a few times, give yourself the odd uppercut if you're doing the wrong thing, and get back on track. But it's just it's you staring in the mirror at times about what do you want to do. When you've got a lot of people working within an organisation, even just saying good morning can be a few hours of, going to see a few people. Someone's had a good day on the market the day before, and you go over and say well done, and you have a few coffees with people, or that's a full-time job, and that's at every point in my career. I think that's been the key driver, where really having a genuine interest in the people that you're working with. And you can't help everyone, but that's been, to me, the key to any success that I could claim of having, which certainly none of it's been,
And was that a challenge to you initially, or was that second nature?
Oh, part of it's second nature. I've always grown up, as I mentioned, I grew up in retail with my family very young, so I was always, working in and around people.
Okay.
And I think I'm approachable. I think people can talk to me, etc. I think that part's always been in my DNA, but it's also a chore, and you need to. I think, especially as what I've learned as a business grows, it's really trying to understand the different people that you're working with. Many of them can help you as well, right? And that's what I learned is you want to try and be quite humble, no matter what position you're in, and even when we'd have work experience or juniors, joining the firm, I'd always take time to sit down and talk to them, and you can spend a lot of time doing that, and many leaders or bosses won't waste their time. It's unnecessary, but it's good to hear people's stories. It's good to help them and try and just see what it is that they're trying to achieve, because you just don't know what people are up to, and I've been fortunate in my career. A lot of the people that have worked for me have helped me enormously now. They've either moved on or working in competing firms or in complementary businesses, and often they'll send opportunities my way. And I just feel that part there of mentoring, of trying to become a better leader, and that's something that was really pushed on me at Shaw as well, was opening up better communication, being more visible as well, making and being, sometimes being a good leader is also saying no to people or pushing back on certain things, and that's probably a hard thing that I found.
Okay, so you found the pushing back, saying no, was challenging in your role and in the firm, particularly in a growing environment. Is that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if you're a people pleaser,
Mm.
it's very easy to say yes all the time. And if you've got a big firm with a big balance sheet, it's very easy to say yes to everything. But sometimes you have to, what we try to do, and I think what we did very well, is you do try and apply some element of pressure or accountability on everything. And that was something that I've learned, and I think it's really, really important, where you have to treat every dollar as it's your own in any business, I believe. So if you want to get the most out of people and also help them to grow and push them to sort of challenge some of their own boundaries or get out of their comfort zones themselves, it's like, well, how do we do this together? And that was the approach that I think was really ingrained in me, which is, don't just say yes to everything. Figure out how can we do it better. How can you get accountability? Because you need people to champion certain things as well. If someone comes to you and says, I want to grow my business, I want to take on a marketing role or employ someone or whatever it may be, it's like, okay, well, it's easy to say, yep, let's do it. But hang on, let's step back. How are we going to do it? What's it going to look like? Who's going to, who's responsible for this? What are we going to achieve out of this? Is it really what you want to do? Is it going to be on me, or is it going to be on you? Like, there's lots of things that you can, keep sort of drilling down into. And I think that for me was something I went from really being able to just make my own decisions and do what I wanted to all of a sudden think, well, how do I actually get the most out of people working with me, and how do I help them lift to another level? And to do that, I had to try and be better at what I did as well.
Better yourself. Yeah, you're exactly right. As a leader, the eyes are on you, and if you're not challenging yourself, then how can you expect your people to challenge themselves? So it's pleasing to hear that in an organisation of that size, there still was an increased level of, I guess, leadership that was expected, because that's really the truth of it, is they expect you to be a good leader. And leading a team of that size, and when you talk about culture, I'm just thinking, myself, I'm going, you've onboarded, you've doubled the size of the team, you're building a brand, you're building a personal brand, you're still learning as a leader yourself. How do you do it? Like, how does it actually settle? Did it ever settle, or it was just we have to just keep moving forward?
Keep going
just
forward.
Keep moving forward, right?
And I was the CEO at Shaw's, Earl Evans. I think a lot of credit goes to him, because he would always push when required to get more, but also be able to sort of give I guess that guidance and assistance. So in terms of being a good mentor, it's not like it just says do better or do more. It's also why don't we do this, and how can we do that? And if give you if you think you could have done better, if it was give that sort of feedback, and that good honest feedback. Sadly, sometimes it stings a bit when you get it, but also helps you, because if you take it on board, that's how you get better. And dealing with people in particular, and trying to keep I think the challenge with a lot of big businesses, and Shaw's in particular is a business that is certainly continues to grow and will continue to grow in the future. How do you keep that mentality of it's easy to say, well, you're a big business and you can do anything. Like, you've got to keep that sort of small business mentality to say, well, every dollar is important, and every decision we make has a consequence, and our people are our biggest asset. How do we make sure that we're giving them what they need and pushing them in the right direction as well? And so that was one thing that I learned, which is, irrespective of the size, you don't just go, oh, it doesn't matter, we can just do whatever we want now. You still have to have that same level of decision making and accountability, which to me, I think is a sign of a good business.
Amazing. Oh, it's impressive, mate. Absolutely impressive. So you've obviously now transitioned into your new role as a board member of Black Cat, and recently completed a raise of $80 million, which fortunately, I guess the gold is where it is. But notwithstanding that, you've also got 23 years of experience in the game. So I guess let's probably just touch on that. So how do you transition from corporate services into that role, and what is the change?
You just cut everything. You walk out the door one day and you just don't come back, and you go, I'm done. No, for me it was a just one of those career decisions where personally I felt that had built and played a role in getting the business in Western Australia for sure to a certain point, and I'm proud of what it looks like, and was very lucky to be able to hand over to an excellent manager with an excellent team, and that's being able to do that makes the decision very easy. But the itch that I had, which and have, is I just love working with companies as well, and different companies. So again, over the course of my career, I've been able to work with lots of different businesses in lots of different industries. In Western Australia, obviously, exploration and resources are key to what we do, and I'm very lucky that stepping away, I thought, well, perhaps I'll pursue a few board roles, which I've been able to establish, and I'm contracting or consulting to a few clients that I've had for many years, and these are companies that we've raised money for in the past, or that I've got strong relationships with the board of directors, whatever it may be, and I get a thrill out of that. But it was a deliberate decision that I had to make, because it wasn't for me, I couldn't see how you can do a bit of both. The shore business is too big. It was too big to do that job halfway, and you need someone. If you're going to be in that role, you have to be committed to that role, and same on the other side. If you want to build, some board directorships and to provide ongoing advice to some companies, they expect you to be on call, and they expect you to be available and switched on. You can't just go, hang on, the next, I'm really busy at the moment with my day job. It doesn't kind of work that way. So for me, I was in a fortunate position where, I spoke to the family, and they were very supportive, and kids can be very, very, very brutal when it comes to the truth, because I try and say I've got 3 children. I try and say to them, you just work hard, and opportunities will present themselves, and see where it goes, and there's lots of opportunity for kids these days. Like they know that your first job's probably not going to be your last job, and there's lots of things, and you kind of try and give them lots of career advice over the time. And I'm sitting there going, I probably need to take some of my own advice here. I know it was very good, and I was able to fortunately join the board of Black Cat is a role that I'm involved in. They're a gold producer in Western Australia, and we've just raised some money for them, which is absolutely fantastic, and it really sets up the company now for growth. And gold, as we discussed, is having a moment in time. At the moment, it's historic gold prices, and hopefully we won't look back at this interview in 5 years' time and go, that was the top of the market of all time. But no, it does feel like with the current trajectory that there's a lot of good fundamentals behind the gold price. But irrespective of that, for producers, whether it's today's prices or even if prices revert back to something more normal, there's fantastic margins in these businesses. So Black Cat's in a great position. It's got a very, very strong balance sheet now, and now it's poised to continue if they can execute on the strategy of
with some good advice. I'm sure they will.
We'll try.
So Davide, in closing, you've had what is still yet to be an illustrious career. You've had a fantastic start to what I suspect you'll continue to do for the foreseeable future. If there was one piece of advice that you'd say to young Davide back at 21, 22, breaking in, what would it be?
Oh man, I'll tell you. Just the thought of that, just a little bit scary. It feels like a long time ago, but I remember the enthusiasm I had back then, and I think it was. There's a couple of things. One is just hard work, and that was ingrained in me, I think, from a pretty young age. Just keep going, and I did that to get my foot in the door, and I feel like at times I'm still doing the same thing, which is, the hard work doesn't frighten me. And even this new chapter, I started and wrote a list of, what am I going to do? You set your goals, and you just work hard, and every day you just try and do a little bit more, and it's just that work ethic, I think, is key. It's just don't give up. And the other part as well is not to, I know this is almost contrary to what I just said, but don't try and overthink it either, because sometimes you think things have to fall a certain way, but they often, just get to a point, because other things, it's like you walk up to the top of the hill, when you get to the top of the hill you see more. So there's opportunities will present themselves, and that's really what I've, this chapter of my career now, and it's still playing out, so hey, time will tell, right? But it's almost like you step into the unknown a little bit, and don't try and have all the perfect pieces perfectly set up, and just start somewhere and work hard, and opportunities will present themselves. Because I was very much, I feel like, back then I was very much in a rush. Still feel like I'm still running. It's not like a slow, I haven't got the walking stick just yet.
Not yet.
But we're all in a rush. One thing we don't have is endless time. So I'd say just, do as much as you can. Don't waste the days, because for all of us, we don't know how many we've got, and just put your best effort in every day, and see where it takes you.
I think that's some actually really good advice, because more often than not, everyone has this plan, and it's got to be to the plan, and it's all got to work out. And if it doesn't happen by this date, the world's going to end. There is no plan, mate. You just got to persevere, put in the hard yards, and opportunities present themselves. Yeah,
absolutely. And sometimes what you think is your plan is not. Sometimes it is playing out. You just don't realise it, and
Absolutely.
It just goes. There's it takes its own path. But I've been, very fortunate in stockbroking, and very fortunate in wealth management, and where it's taken me. And I feel really blessed. And if you said to me back then, you would have, got to this point running, one of Australia's biggest wealth management firms, playing my part in Western Australia to do that as part of that team. Man, how good.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I often live by a quote: if it's meant to be, it will be. So just keep pushing forward, and whatever plays out in this life, we'll soon find out.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Davide. You've been a great guest, very insightful. You've had a tremendous career thus far, and I look forward to following your journey into this next chapter. If anyone wants to reach out, Davide, where can they find you?
You can find me.
You don't want to be found?
I've spent the last month trying to go incognito.
Oh, no.
No. Well, okay. I'll say this, and then my kids will laugh at me. I've got a LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me. If you find me on LinkedIn, you'll get hold of me.
Okay.
They say that I'm a quasi influencer on LinkedIn,
and
they say that,
right.
and they laugh at me. They mock me because they're like, "Oh, you're so big on LinkedIn." But that's probably in today's day and age the easiest way to get me. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, if everyone's got any questions or wants to reach out for some advice, I'm sure Davide can make himself available. He does now have some free time on his hands, which is good. But thank you so much, mate. And as I said, I look forward to hopefully working closer with you and following you on this new journey.
Thanks, Pass, and well done on the podcast. What you're doing is great, mate. So keep it up, and I'm sure it'll continue to help your core business go in the right direction as well, which is what it's all about. So thank you, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
You're welcome. Anytime. Thanks, Davide.
Thanks.